Righto, mate. Now we've got to get to the sad times when you left us. We had a good time 76, 77, 78. You went to the dark side. How did that happen and why did it happen?
Well, the main reason that it did happen was there was a group of supporters, and they were called the Supporters Club, in our band, obviously Up North supporters, who were always offering some money to players. I'd gone to Harry Forbes about what they were going to offer to me for the next 3 years, and Harry gave me a figure, and he said, "You will also get, by the way, an amount of money from the supporters group." And there was a fellow who was in charge of that. I don't want to necessarily.
Yeah, no.
I went to him 3 times in 3 weeks to say, what am I going to get and when am I going to get it?
Yeah.
And it never happened. And I went back to Harry Forbes and I said, what you told me was going to be happening didn't happen. What's the story? Anyway, it's in that period of time, I got offers from Manly, and of course Manly are Manly, and they push you pretty hard as well. I didn't actually know Bruce Walker was actually going.
So you guys didn't collude and say, "Hey, I'm out of here. Come with us."
No, it wasn't the two of us together at all. It was totally independent.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it was only after I'd actually signed with Manly, because Norse just didn't come back. They didn't conclude with what they said they were going to do. So I told them I was going to go, and I don't think they believe all of it.
And then that's all. It's too late.
It was all too late.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything untoward about what I did. It was them not agreeing to what they promised they would.
So obviously you didn't like your time down there because you end up, thinking, "Oh, I missed the Bears." Even though you did all right down there, we don't want to go too.
Enjoyed it. The club was good. They were totally. Their attitude was totally different. The players, they had the players are players. You do your work and you flog yourself on the training paddock because you want to be as fit and as strong. But the players, they had a lot of very good players, obviously from the peninsula. They got everybody.
Well, talks, doesn't it, mate?
Yeah, exactly.
Feel sorry for the West supporters because they got absolutely decimated around that time.
They did.
Yeah,
and actually at that time I was asked if I would be captain coach of Wests.
Oh, right, didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was offered that position, but I thought with people like Tommy Radonicus and Dallas Donnelly and Les Boyd and those, I think I'll have a bit of trouble with those fellas being a captain coach. I thought I might leave.
And it's a long way.
And it's a long way out there. But it was. I felt very privileged to be asked, which was very nice.
You could have been the mayor of Campbelltown. You could have owned half of Campbelltown. But West was attached to it back then, so you could have owned half of the inner West.
Well, I ain't got a car that could travel that far without breaking down. So that was the reason and how I went over to Manly. And I had a good 3 years there. Enjoyed it. Made a lot of good friends, and the club were a good, solid club. You could understand why they've done well in the past.
Kind of led the way, unfortunately, didn't they?
Yes.
Them in the East, they kind of led the way on
they did.
how to look after people.
They certainly did, yeah. And then I was a new secretary come in then. That was Ken McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And Ken was a good bloke, and I knew him well because he had his boys at the Maris Brothers,
yeah.
and I taught 6 of his boys. He got 9 lads,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
you know, I had every respect for him and knew what he.
Well, half of them are on the Den as well, so they'll see
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're great family, and I was really pleased, you know, to be able to come back with Norse, because I knew Ken would really.
And how did that happen? Did they ring you up and say, "Hey, look, you interested in coming back? We're building the team again"?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what he did, and I knew Ken would do that.
Yeah.
Which he did. I mean, one of the first players he got, and he told me, was Mark Graham. Now, I didn't know Mark Graham, and he was playing up in Brisbane.
Yeah.
I didn't know really anything about him, but Christ, what a player he was!
Absolute gun. Yeah.
A terrific player, and you know, they did really well to get Mark, and Kenny went up there.
Yeah.
You know, to get him, and the first thing they would. First time they met each other, I think that was on a Sunday, and you know, they were both talking about whether they'd been to church or not. So those
Big tick.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I suppose that, you know, like Don was more mature, like he'd been a hard first grader, you know, so he knew what it was all about, and we had another couple of, you know, good senior players that around that time as well.
Yeah. Well, Keith Harris
was back. Yeah.
Was back as well, and you know, we had again another Steve Mayo.
Yeah.
We had another big pack.
Yeah. And we used to love it when it rained at North Sydney Oval, didn't we, with our pack, didn't we? We used to go all right.
I mean, it was marvellous, and we had Johnny Adam then as well, and he was, you know, really playing with Mitchell Cox.
Yeah.
Came from rugby union, and he was quick and lively. He was a good little 5'8".
Yeah, well, that's where we're going with this. We go fast forward again, like to 82, and Bears come out of hibernation. Even though we started the season pretty slowly, but geez, we come home like a runaway train, and all our supporters thought this is it, you know.
Yes, it was. We were going well, and we were full of confidence, and I thought we were, you know, got a big chance of winning, but unfortunately we had injuries right at the wrong time, and you know, that's always the killer.
Yeah.
You know, injuries to you, you know, to any part of your team can really change anything, which it certainly did for us, and it just, everybody's heart really sank, you know, when those things happen.
Yeah. And I remember like 82, like we were unbeatable at Bear Park. We went through the whole season except for one game, and that's when we had the record crowd at Parramatta. Like it was a fortress.
Yes.
What do you remember about some of those games on North Sydney Oval?
Magic. They were love North Sydney. But mind you, you have to think everybody else hated playing at North Sydney Oval, but they only had to play there once.
Yeah, a few of the other guys I've spoke to have said that.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know if it was 82, but I remember reading in Rugby League Week, you wore joggers on the field one day, and you were kicking goals wearing, you know, your joggers, because you apparently it was too hard on your feet with the studs and the boots and stuff.
That's right. I did that. It was.
And you kicked 6 goals or 5-6 goals that day or something. Won us the game.
Yeah.
Kicked it from all
well,
over.
you see, you can get away with that with round the corner.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a toe poker, it's not quite the same to be able to do that. Yeah. But it was. The underfoot was really bad, and I have to say, when going back to the first year I was playing that, every time you go down on the ground and you get grazes on your knees and all that, they go septic every time.
Yeah.
Because of all the fertiliser and manure and stuff that was always thrown on the pitch afterwards.
Because I remember at one stage where Norse used to wear like roller skate knee guards and stuff, like big pads on the elbows, and you know, I remember they introduced that one year. I don't know if that was in the mid 80s or something, because of, you know, concrete bark and stuff like that.
That's exactly right. And I can't remember which year it was where they just they re-ploughed the oval and took the top layer off. When you say the top layer, if you ever, I don't know if you ever remember, if you were on a corner flag,
Yeah.
and then looked on the diagonal for the diagonal corner flag at the far end of the pitch, you actually couldn't see the top of it because the mound, which was the cricket
For the cricket,
square, and that was, of course, they flattened the whole of that. Just want to say flattened. They took the whole top off, which was a lot of trucks worth of soil, and then what they did is irrigated it properly and put all the drainage in there, and we've had a super surface ever since.
Just, we'll finish up pretty soon, but just what memories do you have of funny anecdotes from training or games? Was there any funny sledges that was said, or things that happened in games or at training? Funny stuff that people got up to, like the famous road runs down to the Opera House and back and stuff like that. I've heard stories about blokes getting suspended from training and they'd be up at Northbridge Hotel watching you run past with a beer and stuff like that. I've heard a few of those stories.
I only can say when we used to go on those magical mystery runs that I always had sixpence in my pocket.
For a taxi?
For a taxi. Because, there was people like me and Bill Hamilton, we weren't made for long distance running. It's all right for the wingers and the halfbacks. And we were always at the back, and we would run a fair distance, but then we got fed up with it, to tell you the truth. So we'd always got sixpence just in case.
Good stuff. And do you remember any funny incidents in games, or anything that comes to mind? Just throwing a curveball at you, but any as I said, was there any good sledges? Being an Englishman and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I was always a pommy bastard, and I was the only one here for most of the time. Did
you give it back saying you guys are just the convicts and stuff like that? Or?
No, well, you see, there was too many of them. There was only me.
Anyway, right, mate, we'll leave it there. I really appreciate your time this afternoon. It's just been absolutely magical, and I know all the supporters from the Den are going to love it. So can't thank you enough.
Ross, lovely to see you.
Likewise, mate. All the best, eh?
And good luck to all the bears in the Den, and good luck to you all.
Thanks, mate. All the best. Cheers.